Hi guys, and compliments of the season to you and your family. Well, my name is the Chef Aine, and I am your instructor for this course. In this course, I'll be teaching you my amazing no-fail fruit cake. Guys, if you want to add alcohol to your fruit cake, this recipe is the go. If you feel like you don't want to add alcohol, there's an option for that, and this recipe is amazing because regardless of the option you decide to choose, it still comes out really well. So guys, make sure you follow these recipes as I have shown you here, and if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to me and I'll be more than able and available to take your questions. Happy caking! Hi guys, so I'm just going to introduce our ingredients. In this bowl I have my margarine and granulated sugar. These items are already measured and the description box will contain the specific measurements. So in this bowl I have my flour, and in the flour I have my baking powder, okay, and this flour was sifted. Then we have our raisins or mixed fruits. This is a key ingredient when you're making fruit cake, very important guys. And in this bowl I have pre-soaked some of the raisins and I added some cherries, some red cherries to it. The longer you soak your raisins, the better your fruit cake would be. I advise you soak for at least a month, and if you can soak for more, please go ahead. So here I have my nutmeg, okay, this is the pre-packed nutmeg. You can buy the one that is still in a seed form that you have to grate. I think that one has more flavor. So here I have my dried coconut. You can have or you can use other kinds of dried fruits like dried orange peels, dried mango or dried apples. So here are my flavors. I have my butterscotch and I have my vanilla flavor. Please make sure you use the best quality flavoring that you have, okay? Here I've broken my eggs into a cup. I have my black treacle and my golden syrup, okay, and next I have measured my orange and lemon juice. I have mixed them up in this cup. I didn't mention my browning, it's at the far right of the video. So here I have the rind of the lemon and the rind of orange, okay. The measurements are still in the description. So you want to grate, after washing properly, you want to grate the back of a lemon and orange. Grate it until you're able to get, or let's say until you're able to scoop the quantity that is required. And finally I have my cinnamon, ground cinnamon guys. So let's get started. So guys, you want to cream your margarine or butter and sugar until it is fluffy. You'd know when it's ready if you start to notice it gets pale. Okay, this took me 3 minutes before I started adding in my eggs. Don't forget to scrape the sides of your bowl while you mix. It's very possible that lumps of sugar or lumps of margarine that hasn't been mixed in properly hang around the sides of your bowl. So what you want to do is you want to occasionally scrape the sides of your bowl and mix it all in so that you have a very nice and evenly distributed mixture. So guys, at this point we're going to add in our eggs one at a time. Please make sure you add in your eggs one at a time. Do not add more than one at a time, especially if you're making this as one batch, okay? If you double the batch and you want to make maybe double the size of or the quantity of the ingredients you have, then you can add in your eggs two at a time. But it's important to add your eggs bit by bit because there's only so much your fat mixture can take at time, right? It can't take so much liquid per time, so please make sure you add in your eggs one at a time. Also endeavor to mix in each addition properly before you then add in the next. So we're done mixing our creaming our butter and sugar, so it's time to combine all our dry ingredients. Into this already sifted flour and baking powder, we're going to add cinnamon and nutmeg. So guys, in this bowl which contains lemon and orange zest, we're going to combine all our other all our wet ingredients. So we have our lemon juice and orange juice already mixed together. Here we have our butterscotch flavor. We're going to be adding this alongside our vanilla flavor. Next, we're going in with our browning, black treacle, and our golden syrup. Now, when it comes to adding browning to your fruit cake, it all depends on your preference. I actually like my fruit cakes looking somewhere between dark and brown, especially if it's a Christmas fruit cake like this one. Okay, so I don't like it looking too light and extremely dark, so I like to keep it in between. So at this point, we've already pre-measured all our dry ingredients and we have all our wet ingredients in a bowl. So we're going to toss all our dry ingredients into the fat and use a spatula to mix it in. Please add these dry ingredients in 2 additions, okay? It's very important that you start with your dry ingredients. Please don't start with your wet ingredients. The reason is this: if you start with your wet ingredients, your wet ingredients and your fat mixture would not properly mix, because oil and fat do not actually combine. So you want to start prepping your fat mixture by adding in your dry ingredients, right? Then when you have properly mixed in one portion of it, you can then go in to add your wet ingredients. Now mind you, if you noticed, I set aside my mixer and I started using a spatula, and that was intentional. You do not want to over mix your batter the moment flour has entered. Okay, all the air and all that we've nicely incorporated into our fat using the mixer would all go away. That's it, will deflate if you start to use a mixer to mix in your flour. Not only would that happen, you would also have a tough dough, like a tough cake result at the end of the day. You really don't want your cake to be tough, and so you want to be gentle the moment you add flour. Flour has a component called gluten, and when gluten is worked, it develops and forms a very tough, baked goods at the end of the day, which is the result you get from bread and those kinds of baked goods that requires a lot of kneading. But for cake, we do not want it to be tough. We want it to be as light as possible. Okay, so please only use a spatula the moment flour has entered your batter. When it's just butter and sugar, feel free to use a mixer. And if you must use a mixer for the entire process, reduce the speed of your mixer to the least or medium high, and only mix for a few minutes before you take it off the mixer. So guys, you want to completely mix in the ingredients with a spatula until it is properly combined. At this point, I wasn't comfortable with the color of my cake. I think I wanted it a little darker, so I added more browning. Like I said earlier, the color of your cake is totally your choice. You can have a light fruit cake, you can have a dark fruit cake in terms of the color. Okay, all you just need to do is adjust the quantity of the browning. So at this point, we're going to go in with our pre-soaked raisins and mixed fruits. I'm trying to select the cherries out because I like to use my cherries to garnish my fruit cakes. I like it to be on top of the cake when it's baked. So I won't take it out so that I don't end up mixing it up in the batter. So as an added tip, when you want to garnish your fruit cake, that's when you've already put them in the pan and you want to garnish them, add the toppings when they've already baked for a while. Say they've been in the oven for 20 minutes, then you can top it, because I noticed that topping them before popping them in the oven eventually leads to the garnish sinking, especially if it's heavy, like this cherries or strawberries or whatever fruit. If your fruit is heavy, it's likely to sink in. So if you want it to stay on top, I like to allow the cake bake for at least 20 minutes, then quickly fix up the garnish on top, that's the heavy ones on top of it, so that it's already solid to an extent, and then when it bakes, you can still see the garnish on top of it. Mine actually sunk to the center, to the middle, and I didn't really like the result. So in order to avoid that, to prevent that from happening in your case, you want to garnish it when it's already been in the oven for 20 minutes, then pop it right back to finish baking. So guys, the moment you have completely mixed in all your ingredients, you want to measure your batter into your prepared pans. As you can see, I've lined my pans with parchment paper. It's important to do that. Or you can use the traditional method of rubbing your butter in your pan and dusting it with flour. That works as well. So this batter actually produces 2 moderately sized 6 inches pans. Okay, so you're going to have about 500 per pan, depending on the quantity of liquid you have added into your mix in terms of the orange juice, lemon juice, the alcohol, and all of that. Okay, so ideally this will give you 2 6 inches pan. So if you have plans to make an 8 inches cake, maybe 1 layer, well, this would work. If you want to make 2 layers, then you have to double this recipe. Okay, so now I'm going to garnish the top of this cake with the cherries that I had set aside. Okay, these cherries are the red type and I like the way it looks on top, so that's why I'm going to use them. I also have my dried fruits. Here I have my dried coconut, and this is what I'm going to use. I'm also going to be adding some raisins, taken from these pre-soaked raisins which I have already set aside before. I'm going to take some from it, and I'm going to garnish the top of my fruit cake so it has this really festive, Christmassy look on the surface. So now that my cakes are all set to be put in the oven, I have preheated my oven at 180 degrees for 5 minutes before I put this in there. And you can bake this on 180 degrees for 1 hour or until a skewer inserted in the middle comes out clean. Please put an eye on your oven because you really cannot use my measurement if your oven is hotter than mine. Okay, now these are the cakes when they've been brought out of the oven. You can see how nicely baked they are, how they have risen really well, and I love the color of this fruit cake. So I'm just going to cut into it for you guys to see what it really looks like on the inside. It's really moist, it's really rich. I love the burst of flavors, I love the spices, it gives this really festive feel, and this is perfect for the holidays. Mind you, you could also customize your toppings and add nuts. You could also add nuts to the content of your fruit cake. This is something that I see have worked for a lot of people, and once in a while I do that on request if my clients want it. Okay, nuts really goes well as well with the fruit cake, so feel free to customize yours. You can add cashew nuts, you can add walnuts, you can add almond nuts, you can also add pecans and peanuts to your fruit cake. Enjoy.